Welcome back to Senior Savvy Cannabis. I'm Katherine Goldberg. Today, we're joined virtually by Chase Werner, the home grow coach. I wanted to bring Chase in because we're about 46 days in, and I want him to take a look at my grow and kind of assess where we are. I'm going to open it, and we can all marvel in what this has become. Um, get out of there.
The big reveal. Oh,
So let
very
me
nice.
do this little clip, kind of a convenient little thing. Is this a good angle, Chase, to take a solid look inside, or do you want me to be moving anything
Ye-
around?
Yeah, no, that's good for sure.
So
That's perfect.
awesome. Okay, so first of all, so we're 46 days in. I think the most surprising thing, at least to me, is that I've only watered this 3 times. I had heard about dry farming, kind of
Mhm.
creating the richness, helping to make the terpenes more like rich, and it it seems to be working.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
I mean, oh, go ahead. You have something else, or?
yeah. So the reason also we are watering so infrequently is because I was having gnat issues before I got the blue sticky trap. So maybe can we start there, and can you just talk about your philosophy on why you were like, we're done watering?
Sure, yeah. So it's very common for people to overwater. And basically, you moisten the soil. When we first mix up the soil, we put some moisture in it with organic soil. You want to have some moisture content in there. Um, and then we got some fungus gnats early, and so the quickest thing to fix fungus gnats is just to water less. There's like chemicals and things you can do, but it's really just more of a watering technique problem most of the time. And so the first thing I did was tell you to stop watering. The term for that is like go for a dry back, which just means the media is drying out. And then we used the classic method of sticking your finger in the dirt to see how the moisture was, 1 or 2 knuckles deep. Um, and when the plants are small, something else we have going on here that's contributing to that small amount of water is it's a 7 gallon pot. So we have one autoflower in a 7 gallon pot. And so there's a lot of moisture. That soil can hold a lot of moisture that that plant can have access to. Um, and so, I told you to stop watering. And then basically each day you check, you put your finger in the dirt, you see how the moisture content was going. And then I think we've been doing like a 1 to 10 scale, which is nice for you to communicate to me, right? Like one being dusty bone dry, 10 being wet.
Totally. And
And
it's a little bit
basically, yeah.
subjective, but yeah, that's been a really
Yeah.
good new way to kind of bring a full sensory experience in, because I bet like I'm sure there are like meters or something you could use,
For
but
sure. There's analog meters, digital soil moisture meters, right? But from the purposes of trying to do this on a budget, we're going with the old school method of the finger meter.
love the finger meter.
Yep.
Um, so okay, we put up the trellis net,
Hmm.
um, which was surprisingly easy.
Yeah, just zip ties on the vertical poles. We got, I think, like a 5 by 15 bag of trellis net, which you don't need, you only needed a small square of. Super easy way to manage the canopy because we're trying to train the plant with indoor production, right? We want to train it so that we get a lot of bud sites in that ideal zone where the light is strong.
I bought bud clips, but for the life of me, I could not figure out how to put them on, even though it seemed really obvious. Um, so I guess did I just miss my window of opportunity for this round?
Yeah, with those bud clips, basically you've got to put those on. They're gonna bend the stem, like kind of a mellow bend, but they're bend the stem, and so you need to do it when the stem or the branch, I should say, is pretty thin. And once you pass a point, those branches become too strong to where if you try to bend them into that clip, it's going to snap and cause, a lot of damage to the branch. So yeah, we kind of missed the window, but also with the trellis net, I mean, it looks good. You got a lot of colas there. Um, so it's okay. We can manage with trellis.
Okay, good to know. And I'll just save them for next time. So not a
Sure.
big deal. Um, every day or so, you have me using that Photon app, the free one,
Hmm.
to take light readings for you. And I tell you a number, and then sometimes you say like, okay, move the light up 4 clicks on each side.
Hmm.
What's going on in what why am I doing those things? Why are they important?
Sure.
And what are you
Yep.
doing with
Yep.
that number? Like, what's it telling you?
Yeah. So I'm asking you for a PPFD measurement, which is a numerical number that's measuring the photons of light hitting at any one point. And then I'm plugging that into a daily light integral calculator, which is just a fancy term for the whole some amount of light a plant receives over a day. And so with the autoflowers, you're not running CO2. It's not a professional grow facility. So all those things considered, the DLI number that I'm trying to maintain at the top of the canopy is like 45. And that top of that canopy is obviously moving as the plant grows. And so we're trying to keep a DLI of 45 around the top part of the plant. And then I actually did something interesting because that light's a little small for the tent,
Mhm.
and I wanted more penetration down into the canopy to the lower bud sites. But I also didn't want to go over the DLI threshold. And so I actually shortened the day length on the Spider Farmer app down to 17 hours from 18 and increased the intensity of the light.
Interesting.
That way the amount of light is not increasing, but the penetration of the light is increasing. The lower branches are receiving more light.
So
So
how we started at like 11%, right? So
sure.
the plant, like we started very low and we realized it needed more light, both brighter and closer to the plant. Then
Hmm.
that really kicked off the growth. And then,
Yep.
so is it safe to say that as the plant grows, you're going to be always increasing the power of the light? Or is that, do some people just set their lights to like 100% and set it and forget it? Or,
Well, some people do. There's an approach where you just set the light high
okay,
above the plant at the beginning and you turn it up, right? And think about it. When that seedling first breaks the soil, it's going to be very far from the light. As it grows closer to the light, the DLI is increasing because it's getting closer. We kind of went for a little more of a hand holding method where we wanted to, run the light at a lower wattage to save electricity. It also doesn't put off excess heat because we're always trying to manage, high temperatures. And so we kind of went for the little more involved approach of having that light low, low in height, low in percentage, starting out at a DLI probably around 20, and then combination of moving the light up and turning intensity. So like over the first few weeks of that plant, we went from a 20 DLI to now we're at the top bud site. We're like at a 45. And
okay.
I'll point out the light's only at 55%.
And it's not hot. Like this tent is not getting hot. The exhaust fan is putting out some warm air, but I don't think the
Yep.
temperature has gotten over it. Can you see on the app what it
Yep. Let me
is?
pull it up.
Okay.
Yep.
Can we also, so the Spider Farmer app is pretty interesting. So you can literally control every element of the grow through this app, but the two main variables we're looking at are the light and the humidifier. Is that correct?
And temperature and humidity. Yeah. We don't have Spider Farmer makes a light meter
Right.
that would plug in, right? But we skipped on that for this round. And so you've just been giving me those numbers with the Photon app. But yeah, basically with the Spider Farmer app, I'm looking at temperature and humidity. And then there's a term called vapor pressure deficit, VPD, which is like a function of those two numbers.
Okay.
Um, and so like right now, the humidity in that tent's 56%, the air temperature is 76. So I'm basically controlling the temperature and the humidity by the extraction or blower fan coming on and off. Because we have on tap, because of your lung room, the room
Hmm.
outside of your tent, right? We've got 74-degree air that's
Right.
like 50, 55, 60% humidity. So, recently, now that we started flowering, I basically told the Spider Farmer app to uh, pull fresh air in whenever the humidity or the temperature goes over a certain set point.
I see.
Right now, I've got the blower fan turning on when the temperature is more than 85 degrees or the humidity is more than 65%. And that's
Okay.
that's a that humidity is a recent drop. Now that we're starting to form buds, there's a higher risk of rot or mold happening. And so we drop that humidity down, and I'll probably drop it down as the buds get thicker, probably drop it down to 60%.
Okay.
So so far, no dehumidifier, by the way.
Right. So you were asking, you said that you were going to try to like work some math and be a little bit creative. I, by the way, for the record, said that if I have to purchase a dehumidifier to have safe medicine, I'll do it. But I
Hmm.
appreciate that Chase is very, eh, he gets it like me. Like we just want to do the best we can with what we have. So what was your like reasoning behind the idea that maybe we don't need to buy the dehumidifier when most people would assume you would automatically need it?
Yep. The two big things is that we're only growing one plant
Okay.
in this tent. So basically, the more plants and the more soil volume you have, the more moisture can sit in that soil. And then the plants are also transpiring. So they're putting moisture out through the undersides of their leaves. And so because you don't have a really dense canopy in there, that lowers that reduces the need for like an active dehumidifier. So
Okay.
that's one thing. Like, hey, we're trying this easy, one pot, one plant in a decent sized tent. The other thing is that your lung room is conditioned and sits around 60% humidity, right? So the fact that we have that available to flush out the high humidity air whenever we want, those are really the two things where I said, hey, this is worth, as an experiment, this is worth giving it a shot to not have to buy a dehumidifier. And I was just pulling up on the Spider Farmer app, they have a really great charting feature, and so I can look at our humidity over the last week.
Hmm.
And basically, before I made the last adjustment, we were kind of bouncing between 65 and 76, which is fine for veg. And then now, since I made that recent adjustment, now we're bouncing between 58 and 65.
What does that tell you?
Tells me that we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Because if the humidity is around 60%, um, it means the chance of mold or
I see.
disease is reduced.
Okay.
We
What's it?
may want to, we may want to try to lower that a little more.
Okay.
So I'm going to play with the set points as the buds get bigger. Um, but yeah, so far it's working.
It's funny how many, and it wasn't like more than 10. It was about 10 people were
Hmm.
like, you got to grow more than one plant at a time. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, you got to, and like, my whole idea is like, do one thing well, like, look at all the variables, like, really understand it. So I think this is just a perfect example of like, because we didn't pop all the seeds and fill the plant up, fill the tent up all the way, we get to kind of save some money and do this the right way.
Yeah, you're trying to learn, right? And basically, if you go in there and you fill up that tent with a bunch of plants and you get CO2 enrichment and you try to, that's like kind of buying like a Ferrari and driving it on a mountain road. Is like a pretty perfect analogy, right? It's kind of a high risk situation. It's like, hey, the stakes are low. You're still gonna get hopefully a couple ounces from this plant, which is a nice amount of flower, and you have a higher chance of being successful because that high plant count, high soil amount or volume, all those like basically they'll make the learning curve steeper, and we don't really want to do that.
Exactly.
It's not the
Um,
goal. So
so I'm gonna first of all, I want to talk about why you had me use my scope to look at like the
Mm,
most narrow of the leaves. Um,
hmm
let's get into that. So so first we looked at I recorded a video on my iPhone and something kind of caught your attention where you were like, can you look into this more? What
hmm
was that about?
Sure. So what I was asking you to do is called scouting, which is like a standard practice in horticulture. Scouting, you're looking at the plants for pests or diseases.
Okay.
And so you started out right with just kind of an iPhone pan over of the plant. I noticed that out of the very top bud sites, there were really skinny leaves coming out, and it kind of looked like a mite, a mite is a type of pest. You can have spider mites, you can have russet mites. It kind of looked like mite damage, and mites are really, really small.
Mm.
And so, like, I wasn't going to be able to see on an iPhone camera if you had mites. You have that 1000x scope, which is really awesome. Um, yep,
$39. I'll put a link to it.
super. And so, yeah, so basically, I wanted you to send me a screenshot of at least 200 times magnification that specific leaf so that I could see if there were mites. I had a lot of experience with russet mites in North Carolina um, when we were doing the hemp plants, and basically they look like little tiny white slugs, and they're kind of creeping and crawling over the plant, and they're terrible. Luckily, you didn't have that. I think the light was just a little too close to the plant. We hadn't raised it for a few days, and so I think your buds were like 3 inches from the light, and I think that was just a little bit of a stress response, sending out those like the plant sending out those like um, single leaflets kind of things. Um, it looks better now. Honestly, it looks like it's bounced back pretty great. Um, but yeah, so that was scouting, right? And so that's a standard practice. Like really, you should be doing that once a week. Is like looking for any kind of yellowing leaves or any kind of weird growth, removing it, looking under your scope, and you're looking for little tiny bugs. Or you're looking for little spot damage because that could be like a bacterial spot or a wilt, which is kind of like different kinds of plant diseases. But that's the way to that's the way to prevent uh, loss from pests and diseases. Scouting, regular scouting. What you don't want to do is just keep watering, looking at your plant from a distance, and then all of a sudden you see that you've got some big section that's died out, and there's a ton of pests there, or there's a bunch of disease. There's preventative scouting. You can also do preventative sprays, different products. We haven't bought any products yet. We
Mhm.
probably should have had a couple on standby. But you've been super diligent about not overwatering. And so we have the environment on point because the spider farmer controller, we don't have too much moisture in the tent because of the watering. So it's a it's been a pretty safe environment for the plant. It's been pretty inhospitable for pest and disease, which is a good thing.
Just to share a rookie mistake that I made that you helped correct. Um,
Yeah.
at the other day I cut off a couple of the oldest leaves. They were yellow. They were basically touching the soil. They were good to go. So
hmm
I figured like, hey, mulch, like why don't you put the dead leaves on the soil and let it decompose or whatever happens with plants. And I told Chase just offhandedly, like, oh, I threw them in. And he was like, no, 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 like take them out and throw them away. Why should people not take their old leaves? Because you think like maybe the carbon will come into the soil or something, but what's the issue with
Yeah. So composting in
that?
general, there's like an equation to it with
Uh,
nitrogen source and carbon sources, and there's a balancing. You have to turn it, and it takes time. And so,
uh,
like in these short-term crops, like dropping green matter on top of the soil, you're not gonna like have enough time to really like start composting on top of your plant. It's like there's already compost in Happy Frog soil. And so mulching is a good concept to preserve um, moisture in the soil and reduce the need to water. And so, like, if you wanted to mulch the plant, what a lot of people do indoors is they use like organic straw hay straw.
Hmm.
And so that if you want to put intentional mulch to keep to reduce the need to water, you can.
Okay.
Um, but just throwing your leaves like down onto your soil, it's basically just like a buffet for organisms and for disease to populate. Um, so you're creating an environment for pests and disease by doing that. So it's always good just to kind of run a little bit cleaner of a shop. And so if you're defoliating or pulling leaves or cutting branches, just take them out. You could compost them in your composting system in a bucket or your turner or whatever you want to do or in the garden, but just throwing them on top of the soil is no good.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I don't know if everyone knew that or if I was just like the odd one out with that, but I'm glad we figured it out. It also, by
Yeah.
the way, made a little delightful like display on my table. I put it in like a water bottle and it's
Oh,
so the
the
branches,
branch you
yeah,
snapped.
not
Yeah,
the
yeah.
dead leaf. Yeah, like the one branch
Yep.
that we cut. And like
Yep.
it's so happy. So maybe we'll end here unless we think of anything else.
Sure.
But why does my house smell like manure? And I'm not complaining. I clearly we are doing this the right way. This is one plant, 43 days in. I am thrilled. But I'm gonna show them this nature living soil. And by the way, in case you guys want to guess why there are bite marks in it, it's because my dog Bear ate it. I looked it up, he's fine. But like it smells like manure. So what is
Yeah.
it and why did we put it in now?
Right. So that's basically Nature's Living Soil's bloom booster, which is like a phosphorus enhancer. So during the vegetative growth, the plant needs more nitrogen, and then during flowering, it wants more phosphorus and potassium. And so that grow flower power is their kind of their product. It's got bat guano, which is bat poop, and it's got fish bone meal, which is also contributing to that smell. Um, it's got alfalfa meal, which is kind of like blended and partly composted alfalfa. So that is the smell you're smelling.
Okay. And what does
But
it do? Why is it important?
it basically feeds those things feed the microbes in the soil, which microbes are just like bacteria and fungi. And there's like in a spoonful of soil, there can be a billion microbes. So they're very, very tiny. But basically, that's those microbes are digesting those things like the guano and the bone meal, and then they're converting those into nutrients like phosphorus that the plant can take up.
Interesting.
Yep. So it's that living soil. Living soil is like a trendy term, but it's organic. It's organic gardening. It's organic farming, right? It's soil growing. There's an ecosystem in that soil that's helping feed the plant,
Um,
basically.
and by the way, so I only put on like a tablespoon's worth and I
Hmm.
just put it on the top of the soil. And then maybe like a day or two later, I watered.
Yep. Yeah,
And
that's called top dressing, right?
how
You're
often
basically
does that
just,
happen?
Nature's Living recommends doing it like every other watering.
Okay.
Um, so we could go with that, but we're also going to watch the plant for signs of deficiency. Um, it looks pretty green right now. I mean, it could be a little darker. It's hard to tell with the light.
Right.
Um, but if you wanted to pull one of the bottom leaves off and take it into like natural sunlight and send me a picture later to
For
see,
sure.
so I can really see the shade of green. Um, Kind of go from there. If it's light green, we might want to add a little more fertilizer.
That's really interesting. This is like reading the leaves.
Yeah, I mean, you can do a laboratory analysis, right? You can send it off to an extension and they can do a tissue test. But one plant, Autoflower, the Nature's Living System with Happy Frog, it's pretty complete. So there's a lot of organic matter. There's microbes in there, so they're constantly making new nutrient available to the plant. Um, we should be good, but I would think every other watering is a good idea.
Okay.
So.
And so we're a little bit over a third of the way in. Is that correct? So what are
Oh
the
no, more
sta
than that. More, I mean,
So yeah,
This
so
plant
what
can
stage
finish
are
in like, yeah, the plant can finish in like 9 to 12 weeks.
okay? Because
It
now,
kind of,
like, can
yeah.
you see like should I here, we'll end here. So let me show everyone real
Yeah, if
fast.
you want to zoom in on the buds, if it,
Yeah,
hopefully we
yeah,
see a
let's
little
just show everyone what's
trichome
going on.
development.
Okay.
Sure.
Can you see this? Does this look good to you?
Try to get right on one of the main buds at the top.
Like this?
Oh no, you're just showing canopy. I'm not sure what the
Oh,
camera.
here.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, just try to get that to focus up a little bit.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, you've got a bunch of white pistils there, right? They look super healthy. Basically, I think these buds now it's like they're going to be bulking. I think for the most part, the stretch, what we call the stretch, like the initial, like um, vertical growth in
Um,
flowering, I think is mostly done, and now we're just going to see the buds getting fatter and fatter.
so that's exciting.
Can't, yeah, I can't really see the trichomes on there, which are like the resin glands,
Yeah, you
right?
can't really
But
see them quite yet.
with your scope, if you wanted to try to send some pictures of the trichomes to the scope through the scope, I can take a look. I'm sure they're all going to be clear. The progression with trichomes basically they start clear, then they turn milky, and then they turn amber. And
So
everyone has a different opinion on like when to harvest, depending on what you want
right,
of the
so
bud.
this is
But
probably a little bit too early to ask this question, but
hmm
like obviously I like energizing weed, but
hmm
I'm not like gonna be like, let's chop it when they're clear. But it seems like there's like about maybe a 2 week window or so where I mean, this isn't something
Yeah,
we have to think about right now, but my question is, can we chop it maybe a tiny bit earlier than someone else would who wants their weed to be more sedating?
absolutely. That's
Okay,
exactly what we'll do.
that's all
Yeah.
I wanted to know. Okay.
hmm
Um, I mean, this is one plant. This is like pretty, can you see so you can see this?
The stalk, yeah, yep.
Like the stalk is like, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's
Um,
vigorous for sure. And we haven't really done much. Um, I haven't had you do much like defoliation
right.
or what they call like lollipopping, which would be like pulling all the leaves and branches off the lower part of the plant to have it kind of be bare stemmed because it's a smaller autoflower. You know what I mean? It's like we don't really need to do a lot of defoliation. It's not a big plant in general.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, do you know what's like funny but not funny at all? So, as a child, I had really bad allergies and had to go get allergy shots like twice a week. And
mm,
they would do like the allergy test, and they were like, okay, you're allergic to everything, like on my back, you know? Um,
yep.
so, fun fact, I'm allergic to weed. So, when I
Mm,
put my hands in, I like get arm hives and I get really itchy and red. So I cut off some long sleeves. So I put those
nice.
on. I mean, obviously, well worth it.
I actually have that too. I have to wear
Yeah.
the
Okay. Okay. So
sleeve
good to know.
protectors.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Hey,
cool.
one question.
Yeah.
Just you see those the leaves down by the trellis net to the left? It looks like a little curly.
Um,
Back towards the back left corner of the tent. No, go back up. Um,
this way.
no, other way.
Other.
Other
Okay.
in the
This way.
mm-mm.
This way.
Yep. You see you see that curling leaf by the trellis net there?
Um, Here.
Yeah, the leaf looks like this. Looks like my finger.
Yeah. Hey, planter. Is something
Can
up
you
with that
pull?
one?
Well, I just want to see it. Can you pull the leaf off? Like
Can
just
I
pinch the leaf off?
pull the leaf off?
Yeah. If you're put your nope, not that one.
Oh.
Maybe when I come over, I'll check it out
Okay. Okay.
because
Yeah.
there's too many leaves to tell you which one to pick.
Okay. Well, this was fun. This
Yeah.
is actually what Chase and I do like every other day or so. And it's like it's been, I mean, obviously, like, thank you for holding my novice hand. You know,
Sure.
like I don't think I could have done this on my own, obviously, like in the slightest, but having Chase run the app and I take the measurements, like I'm starting to understand the pieces involved. And like we're we're doing it. this is going to be like, I think, a lifelong hobby. And,
Awesome. That's great to hear.
yeah, I'll just, keep learning. But you're such a good teacher and you're really nice when I can't figure stuff out. So I appreciate that.
Thanks. If anybody else is interested, just send me an email.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll link to
I
your
can help.
your profile.